the other part of this is that I believe he was being poisoned. And I go back to why he was in the hospital 7 months prior and he had been intubated, that he went to work. It was a Monday. He hadn't been using any drug. I believe it was a Monday. It was the 18th of February. And he's at work and something is not right. So the work, I actually recently talked to them and they said they were concerned that he had come into contact with something at work, and they sent him to do a urine screening. So he left that place and he stopped at McDonald's, and people noticed like that he was throwing up. He didn't seem right. They call the police and they call an ambulance, and he didn't want to go. I think whatever was affecting him also affected his memory. So he wasn't aware of exactly what was going on.
Right.
And by the time they get him to the emergency room, he's falling unconscious. They have to intubate him. He's in respiratory distress. And even on a ventilator, they cannot regulate his breathing and his air. So he is intubated for 5 days. And something that I just found out in the medical records was that when they tried to extubate him, like take the intubation out, he freaked out and he was combative. He was spitting. He was trying to get free. Well, they tried to use this and say that he had psychosis, but I start looking up all these articles in the medical journals. This is common for anyone to be intubated, and also the sedatives that they put them on cause people to have very bad nightmares, bad dreams, and this can continue on even after they're discharged from the hospital. So this psychosis that they were talking about and that they labeled him with, I don't even know that it ever existed, because this is actually something that is very common. And I'm sure they're finding more about this with COVID and more people on respirators, but the medical journalism is out there on this topic. And, so I look up psychosis and it talks about hallucinations, delusions, but it didn't seem like he was having that. He was vomiting, falling unconscious, didn't really want to be taken to the hospital because in his mind, he had no reason. He wasn't sick. He wasn't, he had enough cognitive, enough
just enough
reality
awareness
to know like, hey, I haven't done anything. I'm not sick. I don't want to be taken to the hospital. But he was very sick and he didn't realize that he was in this respiratory distress and falling unconscious. So that was February, 5 days in the ICU. I didn't know how serious it was. They really didn't express to me how serious that he had been, and they really had no explanation. And later, the medical examiner tries to say that he had pneumonia, but it clearly states in the medical record that he's in respiratory distress and there is no pneumonia.
This is the first intubation.
The first time in February. So then 2 months later, in April, he is sick again. And he goes to, one of the times he goes to urgent care and then another 2 months in the ER. So I'm trying to remember which ended up, but so he has urgent care, the ER, and all of these symptoms are the same: the nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, falling unconscious. Nobody ever really figures out what's wrong with him.
They didn't test anything?
No. And one of the things that they really should have tested for poisoning is because in the February stay in the ICU, he had what is called calcium crystal oxalate in his urine, and that is a specific symptom of antifreeze poisoning.
So you don't think it's arsenic? You think it's
I think
Antifreeze.
it could be both. I think she is someone who may dabble with different poisons